Well, tonight in Crime and Punishment, American Amanda Knox was back in a courtroom in Italy today, nearly a year after she was convicted of killing her British roommate and was sentenced to 26 years in prison. Now, this story started 3 years ago when that roommate, Meredith Kercher, was found murdered. Her throat was slashed. Prosecutors say Meredith, Amanda, and her Italian boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito, were in an extreme sex game that turned violent. Amanda, the boyfriend, and a third person, a drifter named Rudy Guede, are all serving time for the crime. But Amanda and her family have staunchly maintained her innocence, saying that Amanda and Meredith were friends, and she is the victim of a horrible miscarriage of justice. The 23-year-old Knox was in court today to appeal her murder conviction. Since the conviction, a lot has changed. It's a new jury. There are 2 new judges. Even Amanda looks different. Her lawyer says she has lost weight and is tense, and with good reason. She's facing a very difficult legal battle. This time around, they have to prove that she's innocent. And under Italian law, the prosecution can also appeal, which they are doing. Prosecutors say 26 years isn't a long enough sentence. They want life. Barbie Latza-Nadeau is an American journalist based in Italy. She's also author of Angel Face, the true story of student killer Amanda Knox, and a contributor for the Daily Beast. She joins us live via Skype from Italy. Thank you, Barbie. You were in court today. What were some of the latest developments you found over there in the case?
Well, it was a very different situation in court today from what we saw all of last year when Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito were facing their criminal trial. You know, the media was there as usual, but Amanda Knox did not pander to the cameras like she did last year. She seemed very tense, very nervous. She seemed afraid. I think she really understands the gravity of the situation she faces right now. Her lawyers were nervous as well. Everybody it was a tense situation in the courtroom today. It lasted only half an hour. It was delayed until the 11th of December. So even that, I'm sure, was a disappointment for Amanda Knox to not get going with this appeal after waiting so long.
Well, let me ask a couple of specific questions about the details. The alleged murder weapon, a knife, didn't match at least 2 of the 3 wounds on the neck of Meredith Kercher, and it didn't match a bloody knife pattern on a sheet. Now, do you expect the defense is going to use this as the cornerstone of their appeal? Will it work, or is there some other sort of strategy, do you think?
Well, I think it's a crucial aspect of the appeal because in the sentencing judge's reasoning, they introduced a second sort of fantasy knife that must have been used for the other 2 wounds, and they alluded to the fact that Raffaele Sollecito was a knife collector, so therefore it must have been his second knife. All of these things may be great when you're discussing the case outside of the courtroom, but you really, you know, the judge shouldn't have, according to the defense, used that scenario to justify why this knife could be the murder weapon. I think the other crucial point in their appeal is the lack of a motive. And the prosecution in the criminal trial really didn't prove a motive when it came to why Amanda Knox, Raffaele Sollecito, and Rudy Guede would have killed Meredith Kercher.
Really quickly, Barbie, the Italian public, I mean, how do they feel about this, do you think? What's the public opinion?
Well, I think it's very mixed right now. You know, there was a period of time when everyone thought Amanda Knox was absolutely guilty, and I think that tide is turning right now. People are open to hear what happens in the appeal. I think people will believe the appeal, what's presented, and the outcome of the appeal will be sort of a more definitive answer in the case.
All right, Barbie Latza-Nadeau, thanks so much. Let's turn to Steve Moore as well, former FBI agent. He says during his 25 years at the Bureau, he came to believe if you were arrested, you were probably guilty, which is exactly what he thought about Amanda Knox, at least at first. He changed his mind, and Steve Moore joins us now live from Los Angeles. Thank you, sir. You say there's no evidence Amanda had anything to do with this crime. Why are you so sure about her innocence?
Well, I did 25 years in the Bureau. I think I can read a crime scene. And I saw the evidence in this case, and it's not just a lack of evidence. The crime scene precludes their involvement. It's really an affirmative defense. Lack of evidence is going to prove that they had nothing to do with this. Absence of evidence is evidence of absence.
Just to be clear, I mean, when you first spoke about this case, you thought she was guilty, and now you think she's innocent. I mean, so what, was there something specific that made you change your mind?
The evidence. The evidence made me change my mind. I initially thought, well, if brother and sister officers arrested her and had what appeared to be a case, they wouldn't do that unless they actually had evidence. And then when I actually looked into the case, I found out that the evidence that they had was suspicious at best and horrific at worst. There is no credible evidence to connect them with this crime. And in fact, this is just a simple burglary gone bad. It happens somewhere every day in the world, and the prosecutors made it incredibly complicated, hoping that people would forget that the evidence says that they were not at the crime scene.
Well, what do you think hurt Amanda so much then during this trial? I mean, some say it was a lack of an alibi, or her and her boyfriend's stories did not quite match up. Well, I mean, you sound pretty convinced about this. What's hurting her in this particular case?
What hurt her, two things. A prosecutor who is willing to do anything and say anything to get a conviction, and yellow journalists like Barbie Nadeau, who wrote books before she was convicted, like The True Story of Amanda Knox, Student Killer. They poisoned the water and made it impossible for a fair trial to happen. Usually you would expect the press, and it's their job, to hold governments accountable, to hold prosecutors accountable for evidence that they say exists, and if it doesn't, they should be asking questions. Instead, we had the press over there and the tabloid press in England creating this persona of Foxy Nazi, creating this lie about who she was, and the Italian public and the jury ate it up. And so all of a sudden, instead of the real honor student, the Dean's List student who worked several jobs to go to Italy and learn languages, we now have this crazy drug-induced woman.
Well, and just to be fair, I mean, Barbie was just on before you. She's not with us anymore, but she was trying to give us an assessment of what she thinks is happening now. But she did write a book about this, as you pointed out. Steve Moore, thanks so much. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Thanks for joining us. Up next, the men who rescued the Chilean miners sit down with Anderson to share what it felt like, and yes, even what it smelled like.